Hello. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start since it is 11:30. Not seen anyone here yet, but that is okay. Since what we are doing now is nothing more than just really kind of mundane tasks. I'll show you. I will show you, I guess, while we wait for some to roll in. What we are doing right now is we are making some room in our arrangement because I'd like to focus some more on the chords and arpeggios in our song today, and in order to do that, I need to give myself room in my mix. But it's kind of tricky to do so in Soundtrap when you already have so much kind of built in. You already have so much programmed in. Like, I have all this automation here. And I have all these clips here, and what I need to do is create a little bit more space for this verse here at the beginning, so that it waits a little while before the or just gives this beginning section a little bit more room to develop, right? So what I'm having to do is take everything past that point and move it forward a couple bars, like 16 bars or so in this case. Problem is, though, when I move everything forward, it does not move the automation forward, so these lines. The lines I have to copy and move and paste individually. Let's see. If I were using Ableton now, this wouldn't be a problem because it would copy and bring the automation with the clip with it. So like this this muffled sweep here that brings in this kick drum track, that if I were to copy and move this clip here, which I will have to eventually do, it's going to take that sweep with it. But you'll notice, like just as here, I wanted this volume, or this volume sweep is supposed to be over top of, or yeah, basically over top of this bass sound. But it is not there because, yeah, I moved it forward. So, easy fix, easy fix. All I gotta do is come here, select everything, and just go to the new location, Control V, paste it in. So, I actually need to paste it in a little bit earlier. There we go. And make sure that it's up for the entirety before that. And then I can just go in and delete all this automation. But yeah, so that's just what I'm doing for all these tracks. I'm not going to really go too much into narrating it. Okay, these fills here are going to be necessary regardless. Perhaps not this one. I don't know. Just got to move everything forward. Let's just... maybe I'll even copy these. I'll copy these fills. I was holding Option. Sometimes it's weird and it doesn't want to. There we go. It doesn't want to do what you want it to do when you're holding the key. But we got there. This one doesn't have any automation on it, so I don't really need to bother. Okay. These things need to come forward. These toppers. Yeah. Because I was giving myself more room here. Yeah. Let's see. These all need to move forward a couple bars as well. This needs to come here. And all of this needs to move forward. I'm just going to redraw these instead of moving that curve forward. Keep it up in the meantime. This is that kick drum track. Perhaps I want to start the filter sweep right where the clip starts. Filter sweep it up. That drop section. Same here with this kick. That's what this one was doing. But now we've got that happening, so perhaps I want to bring... maybe I don't want to have it all the way up. I'll keep it down because this portion started here and swept down. So I'll have a nice flat line in between. Perfect. Okay, so now I've given myself a nice empty spot right after this verse. We got that, and then I can just copy that whole section over. Considering whether to... Okay, no. Let's bring this one out to here. I wanted to copy both of those at once. I can just do Control C or Command C if you are on a Mac. Or Apple C, I mean. Alright, let me turn my camera on here. Hello, hello, hello. So what I've done so far is I've taken out, I'm taking this first part where the groove comes in, and I'm going to double that up. Arrangement. So we can copy all of this, and I bet you it's going to paste it in the wrong spot. It is. All right, so this is one of the issues with copying and pasting here, is if you have like a delay between the start of your clip and where you put your playhead, like if you put it at measure 9. And you want to copy this whole figure without like this exact rhythm in this exact way, it's not going to work because it's going to paste. It's going to paste in this clip right at the beginning of that sound. It's going to start here and paste it in rather than here, which is what I was expecting because that's the behavior I'm used to from Ableton. But here it's different, unfortunately. So what we'll have to do is create some sort of, we'll have to find a clip to drag that is already aligned to a grid, a point on the grid, which looks like none of these are because they're all moved a little bit in time to kind of line them up to each other. So I'm gonna do a little trick here. I'm just gonna take a little placeholder clip, perhaps. I'll just make a little slice of this. Obviously, I'm not going to get rid of it. Take a little slice of that, and then I'm just going to move it down here to some other track, and then I'm going to copy all of that across both tracks, and then Command C, or set it to here, Command C. Now this is the first clip. And I can come over here to measure 17, paste, and everything is exactly aligned how I want it to be. Beautiful. Now we have 3 repetitions of this guitar track. Another thing I'd like to do is add in some filter sweep to have the guitar a little bit high passed in the beginning, and then it gains more low frequencies as it progresses through the beginning of the verse. So we're going to do that with a little bit of automation there. And I said today was you might have noticed like today's title is about chords and arpeggios. We'll get there. It's mainly because this middle section here, this kind of open section between here and the groovy drop area, all of that stuff is in need of some work. And I want to focus especially on the chord and arpeggio portion of what we have. Like, we've got a couple tracks that give us our chords. Like, we got this one. We've got the Plastic Craft Pad, which is a synthesizer, and it's got 4 different chords, which we will remind ourselves of in a minute here. I'm gonna like hook up my iPad and stuff so I can draw that out and tell you guys what chords we're using, so that when we go to change them around, like you'll notice here all of the notes, all the clips with notes in them are the same arrangement of chords that I started with. So I kind of just made one track that had our 4 chords, and I've just copied it over multiple things and used it everywhere. But I'm gonna go in and change some of them, kind of like invert them, have them get higher or lower in pitch, so that you could so that it had a feeling that it was going somewhere, like it was rising up. Or maybe I'll kind of alter some of the notes and some of the chords, that way you could get some interesting like variations of harmony. So all things we can try in this middle section here, and not just the middle section, but throughout the whole song as well. And we'll also find some more instruments to help us along, and also in the arpeggio category. I don't know of Soundtrap's ability. I think Soundtrap doesn't really have the ability to arpeggiate just notes that you're playing, but Ableton does. So we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to generate. What we could do is generate some MIDI in Ableton that is an arpeggiated pattern. Arpeggiated mean like let me play an arpeggio sound that I have in the song. Let me find where it is. Soundtrap gets quite laggy when you add when you have a bunch of stuff going on. So this track here, in arpeggio. So this was taking all of the notes that were in this MIDI track and these chords and jumping between them at a certain rate and with a certain length. So it just kind of makes a melody out of the chord you give it by just jumping between the notes that it contains. Nothing more to it. And of course you can add extra notes onto the arpeggio. You can make the arpeggio random in some way. Lots you can do to make the computer play for you. Of course, this doesn't look like notes because it's been exported down to audio, because it was in Ableton. I had to bring it in here to Soundtrap, so I had to export it as an audio file so that I could retain the sound that was in Ableton. If I had just exported MIDI in Ableton, which we will do later, in the stream, we'll export some MIDI, and brought that in, it would just be a MIDI file, and I'd have to go into Soundtrap and find a different sound to take its place. So we're going to make perhaps a couple more of these. Maybe we'll layer some different arpeggios on top of each other. We could create some sort of like we could sort of create a part of the song where it morphs between different arpeggio sounds by use of automation. We could like fade between them. Might be interesting. So let's then come back here. Let's zoom out. So you can see, or you can hear that we now have a filter guitar in the beginning, which is nice. It's gonna come in. So yeah, here I want to just keep the beat going. Keep the beat going for a little while longer, so we can start to bring in some other elements of these like toppers from yesterday. So I can sort of bring this on top of it. Continue this original beat. Have the kicks there. I might need to readjust the position of those kick drums because they're just not agreeing right now. I think this one needs to be earlier. So let's kind of fix that. Zoom in here. Yeah, they do need to be a little earlier. You can see that there's a tiny delay in the beginning of that audio clip. So let's... Is that a problem with all of them? Just want to check first. Is that a problem with all these clips? It is. Okay, so then what I'll do is I'm going to do another little trick here. So instead of taking all 4 of these clips and nudging them back a little bit, I'm going to assume that they are all... Yeah, because they are just repetitions. I'm going to assume that they are all equally out of sync. So I'm going to... Oh, I can't. Well, I can just select them all and nudge them back at once. I was going to merge them together so it became one clip. So I just moved the whole clip and selected it at once. But I could also just do the same by selecting all 4 and nudging them back. So let's do that then. Alright. All we got to do is bring back the beginning of this so that... Maybe some more? So that those transients, like those attacks, like line up exactly. Perfect. And because we've got, I think we've got some issues around the edges of those clips. It's like where you hear like a zoom when it starts the next kick loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off the very beginning of those clips. So I'm going to select at measure 13. I'm going to press Command E, and I'm going to clip off the beginning so that we get a nice clean kick at the beginning of every single note, at the beginning of every single region here. So get rid of that, and now should have a nice clean kick here. Test. Let's check around. Let's see what happens if I play from here to here. Yeah, cleaner. Okay, good. Now let's play that with everything. So, I might have to do that in more places too. I might have to do that later down. I thought I had fixed that yesterday, but well. Oh well. So I'll have it filtered down in the beginning, then I'll bring it back. I'll bring it out later on. Start out with this. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna have to figure out. Getting this lined up next. All right. Honestly, fine that there's no one watching this part because it's not that. You get the idea. Like, I'm just kind of adjusting rhythms at this point. I wanted to get to chords. I want to get to chords as soon as I can. And chords is arpeggios, but things just have to work in time first before anything else. So that should be right on the beat there. that's actually like a quarter of a beat forward. More than it should be. Or 3/16 forward. Whoops. Okay, let's just trim off then this much. So that it exactly lines up, and I'll move it back here. So that the end of this clip is exactly there. Now, it's still weird. It's still weird. Let me just listen to this in isolation and figure out. So let me figure out where the 1 is. I think I'll line it up with that hit there. So I want this to be right on that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'll filter this one in as well. Let's try one of the nasal sleeps. Yeah, that's pretty nasal. Let's hear it on its own. Oh, that's like a combination of things. Well, that's cool. I'll also add this fill at the end. And what about this other one? Oh, let's have this come in there. Okay, we're going to have to continue this kick pattern, though, just to make sure that things will line up. So, here. Whoa, what? Excuse me. I'm just trying to paste both of these. Okay. I just need to select the top track. There we go. Okay, yeah. Let's quickly fix this issue. So this is just a matter of looking really close to where I can see the individual hits and then taking one of them and then moving it back. So I'm thinking this is that's a snare drum, so that should be back there. Yeah, there we go. So what I'll do is I'll bring this clip in with a fade, because it's coming in like before the start of the next measure, and we'll see how this plays out. Can't fade the MIDI clip. I can fade this one though. Ah. I kind of want to do something like, I don't know. Let's do this. Let's copy the clip. Let's copy the clip. Also, let's trim off the beginning. Let's trim off the beginning of the clip, and then I will copy this part over to measure 25, and we'll continue it along and see how we can get a transition between these two. Let's see how this feels. With the drum fill, maybe this one can come in with a high pass filter as well. So we just want a hollow sweep that'll start it high up, and then we'll bring it down. I want to bring this in pretty quick. Oh wait, all right. What's soloed here? Terfilla. So I don't actually want to have the kick drum here, right? This is going to be kickless. Now we have room to do something more with the chords. Let's actually get to the subject of today, shall we? So let's take stock of what we have. We have an arpeggio track, which I made in Ableton. We have this guitar texture track, which is nothing more than just, like it says, a texture, because it really only... No. It only has... I have perfect pitch, so I can tell you this. It has... Just like an E flat, a B flat. Yeah, just E flat and B flat. So it's like it's a perfect fourth or a fifth. So it's a very, very neutral sounding. It's a very, very neutral structure in terms of like harmony, right? It doesn't really constitute that much of a chord because like perfect fifths, like you have to have a third to make a chord because that's what gives you the quality of your chord. Because you might remember back to when we talked about triads and seventh chords, how they're made up of major and minor thirds. And because of this, they have different sounding qualities, or they have different moods to them that are created when you kind of create this stack of chords, and then you move the notes around in different ways. Like you can invert some of the notes, you can bring them up or down an octave, and it creates different intervals. And the more open that interval is, the more I guess stable you could consider it, and the closer the interval is, the less stable it is. So this E flat B flat thing is quite a stable interval in terms of like quality. So this one won't need too much adjusting. This is kind of really just for effect, to kind of act as some background ambience for the for this middle section. I'm not sure what I want to call it yet. The build up, so you have like the first intro groove, and then you have like the build up section, and that's gonna actually last quite a while. It's going to last 4 sets of 8. That's 24 bars. It's quite a while for a dance track, but we're just trying to be thorough here and do a lot in these sections. So I don't even know if you would call this dance. Like I just call it that because it's got that kind of beat, right? It's got the kind of house beat to it, and it grooves a little bit, you know? I think it grooves a little bit. So we've got these chords, right? We've got this super stable thing that we don't really need to worry about. We've got this arpeggio, which is made up of the notes in these MIDI clips. we've got this plastic craft sound. And we actually have several variations of this plastic craft sound as well. We've got... ooh, my MIDI keyboard is not connected. There it is. We've actually got a version that's affected as well. See, let's remind ourselves of what effects are on here. We've got a reverb on it. We've actually got a double reverb on it, which we don't need. We've got a little bit of a filter. We've got this brighter thing. We've got an EQ. We've got a compressor before it as well. We actually got quite a lot of effects going on. We don't need this compressor, because we got one here. We don't need the other one. Yeah, all it is reverb. In fact, this is barely audible. That's probably because the volume is so low. In the automation. I want to have this continue throughout the section, because it continues here, and it was never meant to cut out. Okay. But let's do something to this particular clip, because this is the one that is associated with the previous section. I really wish I had section markers, like you do in other DAWs. Like here, I'd like to say, okay, this is the end. This is the first. This is the intro. This is the first verse. In fact, yeah, this is the first verse. This part, and then these three are the build-up slash middle section. What I'm calling it now. This is the drop one. I'm gonna create another space here. So this is going to involve moving some more stuff forward. And then that's going to act as another kind of mini version of this section, which leads us into our second drop. And then we have sort of a... I'm not really sure from there. Probably just an ending, because it's going to get pretty long at that point anyways. So we're just going to not bother with this yet. I'm going to move that in eventually, but I want to focus here first. So I'd like to have the guitar continue while this happens, but perhaps I will filter it out a little bit. But I just want to have it continue, because it's kind of like the whole theme of the track, right? It starts out with that. I want this just to kind of to drone on in the background, because this is sort of our impromptu melody at this point. Like, we don't really have an actual melody with like a lead sound or a vocalist at this point. So this guitar is kind of constituting as the melody. So that then we want to perhaps continue it. We want to continue it throughout this silence here. It changes when we get to this point, but we'll worry about that in a minute. Also, I'm going to do another continuation of this section. But that, like I said, that's going to be done off camera, so yeah. Not that today. We'll kind of skip over that much and leave silence in the space where we're going to make more drop happen. Because today's not as much about editing stuff as it is about getting new material in. So I'm actually going to have this filter back up to so it comes down a lot in this verse. Perhaps I'm going to have it come down even more, and then get lower and lower and lower as it progresses towards the end. Maybe starting here, goes down all the way, brings it out all the way, all low frequencies come back in. Then it's going to sweep back up to about here, which is going to give us a high-passed sound. Alumni. Okay, no. All right. Perfect. So it's kind of still there, but it's not like, it's like really, it's barely audible because it's just like the upper frequencies, which is good. This is what we want. I'm gonna have this one come in later on in the section, and we're going to take the arpeggio. We're gonna move it. Yeah, we're gonna move it back to the beginning. Perhaps. Oh, I got an idea. Okay, I want to do something with this because now the arpeggio kind of takes over as the melody in this middle section. So I'm going to copy this clip back. We'll just listen to that as is. Actually, we only need the beginning part of it because it's a 3-bar or a 3-part thing, and we only have, or we had a 2-bar thing here. So currently we can't hear it because the track's muted, so we have a muffled sweep, so we have to bring it down with a low-pass filter in the beginning. Okay. I think it has to be, let's look at the transients here. Yeah, it has to be brought forward a tad so that they line up on the beat there. I'm going to do the same treatment to the next set of notes because I'm sure they're off by a considerable amount. Yep. We'll take that first note there, we'll line it up, cut off the beginning. Same thing here, I want to cut off the beginning of this track so that when we copy and paste it later, we don't have to adjust its position. So, and you can actually see that this one's still a little bit late, so I'm going to move it forward just another little bit, cut off the beginning there. And now, everything should just work together a little bit better. And it does. Only problem being is here. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a desync there. Let's see if we can address that. Perhaps we can just inch it forward a little bit. Let's take a look at some of these later ones. It looks like it needs to be moved back just another hair. It's important stuff, man. Yeah, I apologize for me taking so long on these little minute details, but oh my god, Soundtrap is lagging hard. Wow. I can't even zoom out right now. This is, I don't know why it's being so strange. Perhaps because I have my other DAW open. You know, that might be it. I'm gonna go ahead and just turn off this for now. Just for now, we're gonna quit this program. Just free up our CPU a little bit. Oh, hi, we have a viewer. Hello. Hello there. How are you doing? We are working particularly on this section leading up to our drop, and we've made a little bit more space in our arrangement to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and play through from the beginning just to give you a kind of an idea of what we got so far. Whoops, I did not mean to skip forward. I just wanted to bring this filter up a little bit. I did it again. I can't click on this dot without moving the playhead. Okay. And I don't want this to be down the whole time either. Yeah, we're adjusting as we go here. Working particularly on this beginning today, so I'm going to be doing lots of starting and lots of stopping. I want this to filter sweep in right there. So right at the very end of that measure. So we're going to bring this forward to measure 8. That filter sweep's going to happen, and those chords are now going to come in. This dot can get deleted, and that can move forward. Now, starting to have a topper come in now. Something else can be there. This can filter a little bit more. And this is the particular section we're working on today. So what's going on in here? I want to have a couple more arpeggios. So what I'm going to do is actually make it happen within Soundtrap entirely. So we're not even going to rely, because I just quit Ableton. I'd like to create another track that does an arpeggio for us. So let's go into our synthesizer and let's look at what we've got. Rhythmic. That's the default patch, by the way. And let's see, bell repeater. That one's quite cool. But unfortunately, it's not an actual arpeggio. It's just like... that's just the filter making that repeating sound. Then maybe let's choose something a little bit different. Not pad. I want something more percussive. Well, there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this pad sound down to the new Cyberduck patch, and we're going to adjust the notes ourselves with the piano roll. So we're going to come in here and listen to just this sound. Whoops, just this sound. Let's turn on our automation. I mean, not our automation, our metronome. So come down here just so we get a sense of the tempo. Turn that on. So what we'll do, take this note, adjust it down to its minimum length here, and then we'll just grab each one and we'll nudge it forward. Okay, I can't, I need to zoom in some more so I can actually click in the middle of the note so that I don't drag the edges of it. So I'll click here on the middle. For some reason that one had 2 notes within. Weird. But now we have this. Oops. I moved the wrong clip. I need to do this one. Okay. That's better. So let's move them back. So I'm going to actually do it this way. I'm going to select these 3, move them forward. Select these 2, move them forward. And this top one. And then we end up with this. We end up with a 16th note figure. Oh, hi. We have another viewer. Hi, y'all. How are you all doing today? So then I'm just going to take this figure here that I just created, and I'm just going to hold Option and then drag the notes forward, and I've created another repetition of it. So now we have this. Another thing that's going on here is all of the velocities of these. Oh, actually, they appear to be the same. Okay, never mind. Forget what I just said. So what I'm going to do is repeat these notes up to where the next chord happens. And because this next chord actually starts on an offbeat, I have it not starting on the next measure 34. It actually starts on the last eighth note of measure 33. So I'm going to grab these first two notes, hold Option, move them over, and then we end up with a G. By the way, this chord, G, B flat, D, E flat, is actually a 1 chord in our scale. So our scale's E flat major. Shows you down here the key, E flat. So it's an E, G, B, E flat, G, B flat. That's a major chord with a D as a 7. So it's a major E flat, major 7 chord, and it's inverted so that the third and the fifth are below the 7th. So it's in. Well, let's figure it out. I believe this is. Yeah, this is the first inversion. Yeah, this is first inversion. But it's in an inversion. This is all you need to know. So I'll do the same treatment to this one. But for this one, I'm actually going to try a different pattern. So I'm going to drag it down to a length of 2. And then I'm going to drag these 3 down. So I'm going to start. So instead of going up, I'm going to go down this time. And then we end up with that, and then I'll just take this repeating figure of 4, and then I will repeat that, and then I can do a little clever thing where I take both of those repetitions and I copy them. And then we end up with this. And then same situation here, we have a gap of 2, so I have an option of grabbing either the last 2 or the first 2. I'm going to grab the first 2 because I'm just trying to emulate how an actual arpeggiator would work. An arpeggiator would just like sequence through these like a pattern. It would go top, or depending on what order you set. In fact, let me go ahead and launch Ableton just to show you the basic arpeggiator. I'm not going to load up any complex projects so that my CPU doesn't complain. But okay, yeah, don't bother about that. That is okay. So in here we have MIDI effects. Great thing about Ableton is we have lots of these MIDI effects. That and the first one is an arpeggiator. So if I were to, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go into our I got to find. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. I'll just play a chord really quick. I'll just find an instrument, play a chord really quick. Table. Percussive. Just want something simple. Okay, mallets. That's fine. This one. Need to disable this. And record enable. So I'll play a chord here, or I'll play a sequence of chords. Play a couple chords there, and quantize them just for this quick demonstration. I gotta stop drawing these notes in. One of these don't belong. This one. So if there were no arpeggiator on it, sound like that. Then if if I go to my MIDI effects, and I throw an arpeggiator before the instrument, it goes up, sequences through the notes in a pattern. And depending on what pattern I choose, you get a different result. You can go up and down. You can also make it go faster or slower. You can do play order, converge, down up, converge or diverge, pinky up. So these are just kind of styles you could get really fast, but where does the arpeggiating, where does the name arpeggiator come from? Well, it actually comes from a technique on the piano. So back in the day, like composers, when they were writing music for like just a piano and a vocalist, like way back when, we're talking like Mozart days, they would write in these, or maybe even now, you have just like a piano the idea of a piano accompaniment, and the pianist is given or only knows like the chords of a song, and you have this vocalist that comes in and sings whatever song, and all you have are the chords. So you have to come up with some creative way to play those chords behind him or her to make it interesting and to fill the space. Well, you don't want to just kind of like block out chords. You don't want to just like, I'm gonna turn the arpeggiator off. You don't want to just like, you don't want to just like play chords like that. I mean, you could, but no one's gonna want to listen to it. But if you did like a pattern, all of a sudden it gets a lot more interesting. But you're still only using the notes that you were given in that chord. You're just kind of jumping between them at a certain speed, and maybe playing like some notes in the right, some notes in the left. It's an accompaniment technique that you can just arpeggiate the chord. Like, that's just the thing that you can do. So this is the way you would do it in software. And in Soundtrap, I am just drawing it out in this case. So let's continue drawing it out instead of doing it the hard way, which would be loading up or I guess the easy way, which would be loading up an arpeggiator, loading up an instrument, exporting it. There's a couple more hoops you have to jump through if I want to use the arpeggiator here, right? I have to export the audio, but I'm just going to draw one in just so you can kind of get the idea a little better. Alright, so I'll take this next group of 4 notes, reduce it down to size, and do I want to go up? Maybe I could follow the pattern of going up here and then down here, up and then down, or I could try a different pattern. Let's try a different pattern, shall we? Let's go, weird. Let's do the first 2 notes going up, and then the last 2 notes starting from the top and going down. So it'll be like that then. Do 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 do, and then that will repeat. And so we gotta get our first 2 notes. There again. So now what does this sound like? I'm kind of curious how. So we got the upwards, then downwards, and then we have a sort of, I guess, kind of like converging pattern where you have first 2 going up, second 2 going down. Kind of sick. Kind of sick. All right. Let's actually just kind of in preparation. In preparation. Let's kind of take all of the notes down to that smaller length. We're gonna have to do it for. We can't just do it for all of them. We have to go ahead. Well, actually, can we? We can. We can make them all the same length. Okay. We need to make them all small though. There we go. So then I will choose a different arrangement. So let's for this one, maybe I'll kind of do the opposite motion of this one then. So I'll do the last two going up, and then the first two going down. So it'll go like this. Up and then down. So this is going down and then up, and then that's going up and then down. So let's then copy that one out 4 times. Whoops. Okay, I'll copy this whole segment. And then the first two. And the pattern continues. Okay, I think this one actually requires 3 extra notes, or maybe I missed a spot. Let's listen to it. Yeah, I see what happened. These two are on top of each other. Okay, sometimes you miss things. Sometimes you miss stuff, and I don't know why in the world that happens. Okay, let's move all this stuff forward, and now we have a correct arpeggio. Did not mean to add that note. And then for the next chord, perhaps we could kind of follow the same pattern where we go up, down, split, up, down, and split, up, down again. Or we could try something completely different. Let's try something completely different. Let's do... maybe we could repeat groups of 2. We could repeat groups of 2, sure. Let's do it like this. Let's just alternate between... Let's hear how this sounds. And, you know, okay, change my mind. let's stick with the arpeggio. I don't think this is the sound. The sound is not suited for it. Okay, we'll stick with a simple upward motion for this one. Because we're not going to have room to copy those last 2, we're going to just copy 1. In fact, we're going to copy 1 and that. Yeah, 1.5. And that way, it perfectly lines up. And then we'll go down. So, actually for this one, I want to switch it up. We're going to go... the last one, then the first one, and then the middle one. So it's going to go outward, or the outer notes, and then the middle notes. You could view this, though, as like... You could see this as like an upward motion, but starting like a note early, or a note later. But like, if you're looking at just this section from here to here, the pattern is the outer notes going down and then the inner notes going up. But you could also see it as starting here, all the notes going up. But in order to avoid confusion, well, I mean, there's really not much way to avoid confusion there. But hopefully it kind of makes sense that if you kind of offset this, it's actually simple. But if you were considering it in terms of like where the chord starts, like the chord starts right here on this offbeat, the pattern is actually different. It'll sound kind of cool when we get it all mixed together here. So I'm just going to copy this segment of 2, and I should have... Okay, I actually didn't have the notes though. But let's grab these last 2, and we will fill in that ladle, that last little bit of space. Making up words. All right. We could go inner downwards and then outer downwards. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go inner downwards and outer downwards so that we don't have just an upwards pattern that's delayed. We actually have something completely different. And then here I have the opportunity to copy the first 1.5 segments here, and then I've got this perfectly filled out, and we're almost done. I'm gonna go a simple upward motion on this one, and then what I'm gonna do is actually bring it up an octave, and then I'm gonna alter the pattern. Well, I'm gonna copy over the segment first, and then whoops. Sometimes I hold Option and it doesn't work. I swear. So what I'd like to do is bring these middle notes first, and like that. So we have this kind of this ramp up, then ramp down. And that'll be cool. So now that repeats, and we have ourselves an arpeggiated chord. Looks kind of cool on the with the notes, doesn't it? Let's listen to it in context, meaning with everything else. We might need to turn it down and or filter it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that preemptively. I'm going to add a hollow sweep, or no, a muffled sweep. So we low pass it in. And let's see what we got here. Oops, gotta turn the metronome off. Don't need that anymore. Cool. Let's go ahead and put it next to the other arpeggiator, so that we can kind of have them next to each other, and everything's organized. More on that organization front. I'm going to go ahead and color things similarly, because we haven't done all of that yet. We can probably close down all these automation lanes to make things look a little cleaner, because everything's moved over as it should be now. At least for this first half. So I'll kind of close all this down, and okay, now we have a nice simplistic view. We can mute this track. This is just our extra samples. We have some interesting motion with this kick and this deep electro kick. I think this is unintended. I want to have this like go all the way down, and also I didn't mean to get rid of that extra dot there. I guess we'll have it filter out there too. Okay, so that's going to go all the way down, and we'll deal with this next. Where was that? There was like a ramp. Oh, I guess it fixed itself, or did I delete it? I think I deleted it. Oh, I see. All right. Oh, it's back here. Okay. Ugh. Yeah, so I want this to filter down leading into the arpeggio section. And then I want it to filter back in leading into the drop section. Excuse me. I need to get some water. Yeah. So let's have this filter down. Oh, you know what's happening? Oh, you know why I keep zooming in on the wrong spot? It's because my playhead is over here at the end of this drop. And when I try to zoom in on this point, because I'm used to Ableton style of zoom, where when you're looking at the arrangement and you zoom in on a certain spot, when you click and drag on a certain spot, you can zoom in anywhere you want. I can zoom in on 9 here, I can zoom in on 41 here, but my playhead's here. In Soundtrap, it's different. Soundtrap, you have to set your playhead where you want it to zoom in, and wherever you are in the project, if you press zoom, it zooms in on your playhead, which is kind of useful, but it's something you have to get used to, and obviously something I haven't gotten used to. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our playhead right where we want to zoom in. I'm going to zoom way in here, and we're going to get a nice motion down. So this is our filter. I'm going to bring it down for that last measure there, leading into our middle section. And I don't want this really big ramp, so what I'm going to do is just get rid of this dot so that it's constantly down. That way, if anything accidentally happens to get on that track, it's already filtered out of the way. But it's just also just so that it looks a little more clean. The project looks cleaner, you know. Also, we got a ramp down here because we have a point where it starts from nothing, and a point here where I forgot to bring it out. So let's bring it out. Same here. Looks like we've got this starting. I'm just going to bring this point forward. Whoops. I'm going to bring the point forward so that it transitions quickly. This really isn't that important. I mean, because like this stuff is changing, but there's no audio, so it's like it's not really affecting the sound at all. But I believe it helps because there's like the DAW can only do, even if it's a piece of software and it's only capable of doing so much at once. Like I mean, given now computers are pretty darn capable of doing a lot of operations at one time. But the more you have going on at once, like the more you have playing at once, and the more stuff you have happening at once, the slower it's going to be. And that might be especially true for lower end PCs. And I would say my iMac is at pretty low end at this point now. 8 years strong though. But the more you have going on, and that includes changes in these automation values, I believe. But I'm just going off of my my computer science degree here. But like, the more stuff you got happen in the background, the slower your computer's going to run, the less stuff you can have happening. And you can already see, like, it's struggling to get around because it's loading so much. I'm already starting to get visual lag in the interface. So just be mindful of how much you have in your project, and it might be beneficial even to, like, when you have a bunch. You see how I've got like all of these individual clips, and that might be the main cause of the lag here, is just the sheer number of clips I have. Like especially here where I've chopped everything up and pasted it in. I think it would be beneficial to select all of these, and if I could do a merge region, there is a way to easily do that in Ableton to bounce down a track into a full region. I could export the track, and that way I would have one long region that just contains all of this audio, but is just one clip, and that might speed it up. But it's just another thing. Hopefully we can get through it without having to condense things too much. But yeah, if you're starting to lag in Soundtrap, that might be the cause. If you're doing lots of cutting and pasting. Ableton handles this just fine, by the way. But it is in a browser. It is in a browser. Like, don't get me wrong. This is pretty darn good for being in a browser. I'm like pushing it to its limits here. But we're getting there. We are definitely getting there. Okay. So, enough of the spiel. Okay, so what I was doing before, it's come back to me now. Coloring. So it helps to keep us organized because, as you can see, lots going on. And especially if you're lagging around a lot, and if you're like zoomed in on a certain thing, it might be hard to tell like what you're exactly working on. So obviously names help. Icons you can only do so much about because it depends on what type of instruments on the track. But what we'll do is we'll go to our three dots here, and the way you would recolor a track is you go here, click on those dots, and then go down here where the color icon is, and you have an option of 10 different colors to choose from. So I'm picking green for the drums. Normally, I'm actually gonna change this because personally in my projects I like to color my drums red. I don't know why, but I just make all my drums red. So I'm gonna do that. Up to personal preference. You can make your drums purple if you wanted to make your drums purple. Why not? Okay. Drum and fill. Okay, and over here, our bass, I'm going to make all of the bass stuff be purple. And the guitar slices, that'll be green. That'll be green still. Okay. And all of the extra guitar slice tracks, I never bothered to recolor these, so they should all be green here. All be green. I think these are the same shade. Yes, they are. Guitar texture, that should also be green. Cyber duck. So these are our arpeggiators, our chord material. So let's color the chord stuff yellow. Okay. Here's another chord thing. Plastic craft. Let's color that yellow as well. Perfect. And another variation of plastic craft should be yellow. Another variation, or another pad, that should be yellow also. I'm going to call this, wow, oh, it's raining. Ah, lovely. All right, so let's call this pad, call this wow pad, because that's kind of what it's doing. Like, listen to it. It's saying wow. Or maybe I could, yeah, wow pad. I'll just call it wow pad. So there we go. We've got all of those. And then we have imported samples down here. We're just gonna make this one blue because that's kind of something that we're disregarding at the moment. Okay. So now that we've got things a little bit more organized, a little bit sorted, let's continue filling in. Oh, also, perhaps I do want to distinguish between the arpeggiating material and the chord material. So let's color these orange instead. Alright, now it's a lot more clear what's going on. So we have all our drums, all our bass, all our guitar, all of our guitar, our arpeggiating material, and all of our chord material at the bottom. You might want to arrange yours differently. I like to put drums first because I am a percussionist. I think drums are the most important element of every track, so I put them first. And then next I put bass because bass is the foundation, the low end of the track. I put that second. And then, I don't know. The rest is kind of arbitrary. It depends what has more prominence in the song. I think, honestly, on that note, I don't know. I'll just leave this stuff down here. I'll leave this stuff down here. It's fine how it is. But one thing I'd like to do, I'm going to have this come in less suddenly. So I'm going to start it up here with a high pass filter. So it's on hollow sweep, meaning it is a high pass filter. I'm going to start by cutting out those low frequencies out of the wow pad, so we just get the texture of it rather than that low end. You just get that. Get a high pass version, and later on starts to come in. And just as quickly as it came in, it's going to come back out. It's going to continue in the background, and then the drop's happening, right? It's going to take some balancing of volume. In fact, I'm going to do that now. These both need to come down. Sliced bass and sliced bass variation 2. These both need to come down. This is like ridiculously more loud, ridiculously louder than that other one. That is so strange. Oh, right. The volume is being automated, so I can't adjust it manually. So I need to bring it down here. I think this automation is off. Yeah, it's like this was coming in the middle. It's kind of cool. But this should be forward a little bit. Yeah, I got this wrong when I was moving it earlier. The starting point needs to be at the beginning of the measure. Let me also adjust this curve so that I get more of the chord happening, and it comes up to a higher point. Comes up to a higher point sooner and then comes out sooner. So like that. Not that high. Not that high. Even less. Even less. About there. I'll take this curve instead. So we will just go to the beginning, paste. And I'll just overwrite this other one. And it's going to slowly start to come out. What I'm going to do is lower the peak. But try to keep the same pattern. And have this slowly fade out. Like that. This one should be lower than all the others. Actually, at this point, it's low enough that I could just kind of fade out. There we go. Then something else will happen there. I'm not sure yet. Not sure yet. I'm thinking we take this whole section that I just adjusted and then move that past this point, and then have another section that contains some like chord-like stuff. But it'll be a lot shorter than it'll be like half the length of this section here. This section. So let's work more on this arpeggio. This combination of arpeggios. How can we get a... Is it fine how it is? It's like being delayed and Oh, you know what's... I think the notes themselves are wrong. I think what's happening here is... this... Yep. I see it. I see it here. Okay, it's zooming in on my playhead again. Yeah. This is wrong. Okay, yeah. I see it. This needs to be moved forward. And then I need to repeat these two notes. Actually, I'm going to repeat the last two notes so I get a more smooth curve upwards. Yeah, better. It was like something was off. Nice. Okay, let's try that with other things. It's lacking some foundation to it. What if I added a sub bass? It's not a question of what if, it's a question of which one. Let's take a look at what we've got. Something else is being played. Maybe something more synth-like. Cab bass. Clean sub. That might be what we need. That's it. That's the sound. That's the one. So I'm going to lay out a little bass line. I think this was needed long ago, and I think this will help quite a bit. We're going to have to do some volume automation with this, though, in the same fashion that we did here, because what's going to happen when we put a bass track in is it's going to get in the way of the kick drum. Because the kick drum and the bass both have a lot of low frequency content, and when you play them on top of each other, they're going to clash, especially when you start to use a compressor on the entire mix. When you start to kind of control the volume of everything, you're going to have really loud low frequencies coming from the kick and the sub at the same time, and it's just going to create this sort of muffled, what's called muddy. It's going to create a muddy sound, and in order to avoid that, what we do is we duck the volume of anything else that has low frequencies out of the way so that the kick drum can come through. Because just remember, like, we've got all these sort of sounds happening at the same time, all these like dimensions of sound here, but you just got all these layers, but all these ingredients, but at the very end, especially with dance tracks like this, or especially with house tracks like this, you're going to end up processing the entire thing through a compressor. And that compressor, you can think of as like, you think of it as making like a Cuban sandwich, for example. And you know how how Cuban sandwiches are made. You put a bunch of ingredients in Cuban bread, or maybe just sausage, egg, and cheese. It's really all you need. Or just butter, and then you squeeze the heck out of it. You flatten it, and you know, You press it all together. You press it down. So that's what's going to happen to this entire mix. It's going to get pressed down. It's going to get flattened and steamed and cooked into this this smaller dynamic range. So that is why we need to get the kick out of the way, because that kick is going to be taking up so much room that we need to carve a spot out for it in the mix. Cool. So, on that note, let's add in a sub bass. We're going to experience that problem with the kick drum, especially because the kick drum is not just one sample, but two samples layered on top of each other. Going to experience that problem, so we're going to fix that problem with that volume automation. And it's going to be quite simple because it's only quarter notes. The kicks are only quarter notes. I can just copy that automation I already have. So we have, what's this? So what are we going to play? E flat, D, A flat. Okay, let's just play that in. We don't need to bother with the rhythm with this one. It's just like low end support, right? Perfect. Let's go ahead and edit this one. I'm going to set my playhead here, zoom in. I don't see any notes because they are such a low octaves. I got to scroll down, and we are going to go ahead and quantize the notes before we do anything. 16th. Oh, it's raining nice. It's raining hard outside. Very nice. I quite like the rain. Sometimes I actually used a rain sound in one of my songs once. It is nice. It is a nice sound, a nice atmosphere. Oh, my door is open for a second. Okay, mistake already. This needs to change an eighth note early because that's where the chord changes. Same here. Oh, okay. I already got it here. Okay, it changes in the right spot here, cuts off a little early, goes back up to an E flat, and then goes down to a... Thinking of doing a... using a G here, maybe? Oh, it's actually an F that we need. I'll just go back up to an E flat. Okay, so that's our bass line. Let's just copy that over. And you'll notice if we play our kicks and our bass together, you can already kind of sort of hear it. Every time that kick plays, and I'll even bring up sub bass to emphasize this. Every time that kick comes through, you hear a little bit of crackle, right? You hear a little bit of distortion. And then every time that kick plays, you sort of lose the sense that there is an E flat there, right? Or a note there. It kind of sounds like I'm trying to sound it out. You're probably like laughing your a hole off right now, but it's like but how you can hear it. You can hear it. I'm pretty darn sure you can hear it. Like Listen to the low end. It sounds like I said already, muddy, right? It sounds like you're rattling an old kick drum or something. And almost like it changes the pitch of it. Well, I mean, essentially you are, because you're getting an interval between two really low pitches, and it just creates this nasty mud. So what we want to do to avoid this is apply that sort of ducking, that volume automation. So I'm gonna just take it directly from this bass track we have up here. No reason in redrawing it. Well, actually, let's redraw it, because we might need a slightly different curve, and I want to play around with different curves to see which one will reduce the mud the most but still have a lot of that low end remaining. So let's go in, let's add volume automation, and we're going to work on just one curve here, so just one measure. Okay, so from here to there. So we're going to start down low, and we're going to go from here to here. We'll start with just bringing it a ramp in like this. We want a little bit of silence at the beginning, because that kick drum needs to come through. And I want it to kind of ramp up. We'll test this curve first. That might be good. I think I need to give the kick, or the sub, a little bit more room. Okay. Let's try that then. Let's try that everywhere. Let's try copying this curve over a couple times. Actually, let's set our loop region so that we can experiment with this easier. Let's set it down to just one measure here. And we'll copy this 4 times. Instead of having to copy it 16 times and realizing it's the wrong curve and having to change all 16, we just have to change 4. Okay. So I'm thinking moving the start point of it a little bit back. And then maybe having these not go up as high, or not go up as far, and also ramp in a little bit smoother. Let's take that then. Let's try it with the other kick on top. So let's move it down here. Move our loop region here. This, and then we have our top kick as well. Let's try to add some presence to it. Okay, so I'm going to need to... Ooh, I can't just... Okay, let me just apply some... Oh, here we go. Here's our amp. Let's add an effect. Let's add classic distortion. When I adjust the volume, it moves down the whole curve. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I think I found a good curve here. I think I found a good level. Let's get that everywhere, and let's test it with everything else. Okay. Now let's see how this sounds. Whoops. I need to unsolo the kick and electro kick. think that's what it needed. Okay, I can't adjust this one, but I can go in and adjust this volume. Or can I not do it while it's playing? Oh no, I was able to. Oh, but that's weird. It gets rid of your curve. Oh, that's rough. Okay, so be careful with this. If you have automation like this, and you move this volume knob, and you're like, oh, carelessly move it around, you know, your automation's gone. So be very careful. Well, I just discovered some, oh, all your points are still there, but they're all flattened out. That's very convenient. So I was being sarcastic. So be careful. If you have some volume automation, don't adjust this volume knob unless you want to scale them down. You can do that. But the problem is it doesn't scale back up properly. So you can reduce the size, but then you don't get it back, you know? So just found that design flaw, you know, and we learn as we go. But that's fine, you know. We can adapt and overcome. That's what we can do. All right, so I want to make sure that this is playing. And I want it to be a little bit louder, so I need to bring back our original curve. And, whoops, didn't want to move that down there. Oh, and also I need an extra point. I need an extra point right there. And I copy this. Okay. Spamming Control V, or spamming paste right now. And beautiful. Should. Yep. And now another handy trick you can use with this is, let's say you want the sub bass to come out in places, but you don't want to go through and like adjust down this volume point and then this volume point to kind of create a fade out. Instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is go in and add another automation lane and put a filter on top. And then what this will do is, because we have a sub bass and I'm adding a hollow sweep, which is a high pass filter, that cuts out those low frequencies. So this essentially acts as a sort of second level knob, or a second like volume level. Because if we bring it down here, it's fully on, it's fully out. But if we start to bring this filter up, it cuts out that low end, regardless of that volume pumping happening. So you get the volume pumping, and you get it to slowly cut out those low frequencies, so you get an effect like, I'll solo it, so you get an effect like this. Right? You kind of heard it come out. I'll make it more dramatic, I'll make it faster. Right? It goes away, and even kind of makes a cool sound when it does it, because it's sweeping through a filter. So I want to kind of bring it up for a second for this transition, and then bring it back down. Same here, so I'm just going to copy this, and I'm actually going to have this one continue to go up because it's transitioning into another section. Okay, cool. And let's listen to it now. That might be a little bit too much. It sounds like it kind of just cuts away for a second. Maybe we have it gradually slope up some more to about here, and then come back down, so it's more subtle. Yeah. Out there. Clean transition, if I say so myself. So we got this one sweeping in with a filter, it probably should sweep in a little bit sooner. I want it to kind of start to come up so it's audible, and then settle about here. I want it to come up, settle there, and then filter up there. Okay, so now we get this coming in sooner. Suddenly, or gradually, I mean. The beat has to continue. So let's drag that out. I think something's off with the beat, so maybe let's, instead of doing a repetition. Oh, yeah. It started to get off. Look at this. Look at this. See how it kind of loops around a little bit at the end there? It actually cuts off a little bit early. I need to drag that out to the end instead of looping it to the end. And then I need to bring it out. Huh. As I knew, it felt like it was a little off. But now it's off even more. Interesting. Okay, so what I'll do is I will bring out our kick drum again as sort of a guide. And then I will drag both of these forward with Option instead of looping them. And then what we will do... Ah, yeah, see, this one came in before. It looks like they sort of assumed the same position. Let me just, like, double check here. Yeah, this one comes in early. Fades out. Perhaps this can fade out at the end here so we get rid of that nasty transition there. I think that might have done it. Let's do the same thing for the next bit of silence. But what I'm going to need to do... Okay, I got it. Is this little blip? Not needed. Okay, so let's do a copy. And let's paste, and let's make sure that we've got it at the same spot. Okay, this one is not at the same spot because you can see that that fade-in is supposed to happen before the start of this next measure. So what we have to do is just select the right one here. So one of these starts right on. This one starts right on. This one starts a little bit before. Or no, you know what I did? I might have cut it out. Hard to tell. Let's grab the first two and Option drag them over. That should cut off the beginning of that previous clip. And that way I know that it's in the right spot. That's pretty good. Okay. Didn't even need to use the guide. So our new arpeggiator is going to come in a second. I think this transition sound needs to be made much more audible, so I'm going to take up this volume quite a bit. Because right now, this is really our only transition effect. We'll add some more here in a second. That. It's just a rim shot that goes across that pans across your head, so it goes... Acts as a nice way of leading you into the... I want to be more obvious. So. I bet you could even be a little bit earlier or later. It could be a little bit different, in a different spot, because I think it's a little off, if I'm not mistaken. Let me select everything, because they're all in the same spot. And we'll zoom back in on our playhead, way in here, just so I can see the individual transients. Yeah, look at that. So the grid lines here, these hits are actually a little bit earlier than the grid line, or a little bit, yeah, a little bit earlier. So what we'll need to do, okay, it's, you know what's happening is it's rendering all these waveforms out. It does not like being zoomed in at all. So should I have the final hit happen there or there? I'm not sure. Let's have it happen here. Right? So that last hit happens on the first measure, or the first beat of the next measure. Let's hear that. Yeah, that's better. Is it though? Wait a minute. Yeah, that's good. Or, other option, do I have it so that the last hit happens a 16th note before the first beat of the next measure, so we get a better so we get a longer transition phrase, so that this note's here on that last grid line instead of the first beat of the next measure. Yeah, I'm still not used to it zooming in on the playhead. I gotta zoom out, go there, zoom in. Okay, I missed it by a little bit. Go there, zoom in, and let's move it back. Beautiful. That moved all of them back because they're all selected. And we should get a little bit better of a transition now. Yeah, that's a little cleaner. Cool. Alright, let's not skip ahead. I'm gonna bring the guitar out for a second. Alright, and then they're not exactly building up enough hype yet. We'll definitely do some alterations to give us more build, right? This has to grow in energy. It was kind of dying off at the end, so a couple things we can do to make that happen. We are kind of getting close to time here, but I kind of want to just let's find a couple sounds that will maybe enhance this this build. Another thing we could do is we could start to bring these filters down and do it with the arrangement. This cannot fade out, and then this could actually filter up. Or it could go, maybe it could go into something that happens on measure 4, and then it's like, how do you get from here? Okay, first of all, these, no. Let me make sure, though. Make sure that the transients are lining up. Yeah, these are. Okay, something that could help is a crash on 1. So I'm going to take that, the same beat here. I'm going to do a little cut so that I can copy this exactly. Cut, copy, and paste on 49, and then paste on 7. Sure. Great. that already kind of made it... Oops. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. I just wanted to cut out that beginning fade in of the kick, and we'll figure out something better. Okay. So let's look in the SFX category. This is probably a good spot to... Yep, right away we have... looks like top picks for this project. These loops are recommended based on loops you're currently using. And it seems like it's a pretty good resource now because, well... Tape noise. That could be useful. Bubble noise. More white noise effects to put on top. That could be nice. Can opening. Alright, we want sound effects, right? We were looking for sound effects. Okay, we don't want anything with MIDI then. We want audio. Come on. Load already. I want to hear what this trembling percussion sounds like. That's like super tense. You know what? That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Yoink. I want that. It's only a really short loop, but it's a really cool sounding loop. Bass drop. That's a nice sound effect. Well, lots of really kind of utilitarian stuff in here. Slams, that might be nice for like entering new sections. Oh, you know what? Hey. Okay, I think what I want to do is I want to take the first bit of this. Okay, I want to have a range of tracks here that will act as our sound effects. This is a percussion track, so I'm gonna make it red. This is a sound effect track, so we're gonna make sound effects be what could sound effects be? Blue. I'll make them blue. So this one sounds like... Alright, the impact is right there. So I want to line up the impact with the downbeat. Because what I want to do is separate them. So we got the impact sound, which is kind of like this percussion mixed with a sub. I just want this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sound and I'm going to use it to lead us into the drop. And it's going to be among multiple other transition sounds to act like this kind of cinematic sort of transition thing. It's not going to be this alone. It's going to be this with a mixture of other things to help it along as well. So I want it at measure 47. We can go ahead and just cut this out, because if I want that sound effect back, I can just extend out this clip and get it, because it's still part of the same audio, right? Just because I made this cut here doesn't mean that I lost that other half. I could just do this, yoink, extend it out. But I don't want to do that because I'd cut it exactly where that this sweep up ends. So let's move it to the end of measure, or to the beginning of measure 49, and make sure that the end of the clip ends exactly on the beginning of this measure. So right here is where I want it. We might even add a little bit of a fade here at the end and extend it beyond. Cool. So it ends up being very subtle in the mix, but let me turn it up a little bit. but it helps a little bit, you know? It gives you this feeling that it's growing, that it's building up somehow. I wish this were longer. That was number... It's about the same length as number 10. What? That's like some horror movie kind of. Downshifter, eh? Sweep up. Now that might be useful. Yeah, both of these will be useful. So this is kind of literally what this is doing, but high frequencies instead of low frequencies. Ah, I did it again. I made another bookmark. I meant to duplicate the track. I'm gonna put it at the same time, and we'll just hear them both at the same time. See how they mix together. Let's make sure it lines up exactly. I'm gonna color this blue because it's transition. Oh, that's not the same shade of blue. Wait, what? What? Oh, it's selected. Right. Let me hear just the drums alone. Let me hear just the drums alone. With the transition effects. Okay, I knew something was off. I think this beat needs to be adjusted a little bit in time. We can look really close here at the transients. Oh, it's the kick drum. It is the kick drum. Yeah, this one. All of these need to move back a hair. Just a smidgen, you know? Just a tiny amount. So that we can get them to line up with the MIDI notes. And with everything else. And once we do that, this will come together and be complete. We're getting close to time, but we'll get this done. Alright, we just want to make sure that that transient is right there lined up with everything. Okay. That should be good. Let's give that a try. There we go. There we go. Now it slaps. Okay. Let's hear it with everything else. Something was off, and that was what was off. Let's just unsolo all of this. We're gonna bring up our transition effects. We're even gonna throw on a couple of effects on the effects. That's right. You want some effects on your effects? Well, you've got it. All right. What should we put? Let's put a delay so it kind of extends out after. Well, I want something to make it longer. I wish you could stretch this clip. Oh my gosh, there is a way. The voice transform. There is a way to do this in Ableton, and it's like kind of one of the biggest features of DAWs, period, is you could take our professional DAWs, period. I'm going to show you this real quick. I know I'm going to go on a little longer today, but I just want to demonstrate this to you quickly. Let me grab another sounding effect here. Let's just do like okay. Let's just grab a reverse cymbal. real quick. I could use some samples from my library too to help out with this transition, but I want to see what Soundtrap's got to offer. But okay, so we've got an audio clip here. Let's drag it into this view, into our arrangement view. What I would like to do is I would like to make this entire clip longer so that this whole this build lasts for maybe 2 measures instead of 1 measure, and this clip is actually longer. But Soundtrap doesn't give you a way to do that, but in Ableton you can. It's called warping. And what we can do then is we can come in here. Alright, so this is the fades. I haven't done this in a while, but you can actually stretch this out. Let me just... here, these 2 buttons here. So I can multiply the length by 2, or I can divide the length by 2. So I can make it twice as long, or twice as short, or twice as long. So let me drag it out to here. I'll do multiply by 2, and now we have... But you can hear that it made it quite interesting sounding. If it were normal speed, it would sound okay. It would sound normal, of course. But as soon as we decide to lengthen the clip, as soon as we decide to make it longer, it doesn't exactly behave in the way you would think it does. Like, now listen to it. It's doing this weird thing where it's kind of like going in and out. That's because the warp mode, or that's because the way it's stretching out the audio differs depending on what option you choose here. So if I were to choose texture, and I could adjust these options, and it would stretch the audio differently. So that's kind of more of what you would expect, right? But you can hear now if I adjust the grain, I'm gonna just loop it so that I don't have to keep pressing spacebar. And I'm gonna play just the ending portion so that you don't have to listen to so much silence. And if I were to adjust these parameters around, you can start to hear it. It kind of does a different job. What about repitch? Okay, well that one just cuts the pitch in half and makes it longer that way. Alright. That's also possible. Complex. Sounds like it does the best job it can at just kind of reproducing the sound. Complex Pro, I think it gives you a couple options. But for something like this, I think honestly texture might be the best option. But yeah, you get the idea. Like, you can adjust the length of audio in Ableton and do it different ways. Soundtrap doesn't give you that option. It just kind of you get what you have, and if you want to make a longer sound, you have to go in or out somewhere and make it yourself. Okay, let's see about adding one effect to, let's do the slam. Let's add a delay to it. No. Let's add a delay. Listen to it on its own. Yeah, so kind of do that. Let's hear how that sounds. Can't really hear it. Maybe it's not necessary. I think I'll throw a compressor on instead, or even a distortion so it's a more obvious effect. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go for overdrive. Now it sounds more like an explosion. Might not be the best thing though. How about a lighter effect? With a high tone. Yeah, that's nice. Then last thing I'll do is I'll fade it in some more. had done it. We had cleaned up the transition. Whoops. And we'll work more on this section tomorrow. Cool? Alright, so before I sign this off, I'm going to play through it, and you'll get a nice little outro, a little bit of outro music as we do this. Hopefully it continues to get the audio feed from, you know what, it won't. It won't get the audio feed. Darn. Okay, let me switch back here. I'll just play this through one last time. So you get a whole, just a picture of it all without me yattering. Yattering? Is that even a word? Blabbing my mouth over it, you know? Just the song. The rest of that is totally not its final state, but yeah, from here to here, that's pretty much final, I'd say. Besides all the mixing that still needs to be done, but yeah, that's coming along pretty well, and I think we can start on a new song pretty soon, and that's exciting. We can perhaps start on songs that involve the viewers, maybe? It's possible. It is possible. But, yeah, we're going to be coming back. This date is wrong. It always is. I forget to update it. It's supposed to be tomorrow at 11:30. We're going to be coming back. And we're going to be continuing on the second half of this song. And, yeah. Yeah, perhaps a little bit more on the explanation side. But I really am trying to just kind of power through this one and just get this song done and get it out. I get like that. So it's like once you get started on a song that you have like a good that it's going well, you kind of just want to like power through and finish it. I'd like to do more kind of tutorial-esque style things, but I'm jumping around a lot, and I apologize if some of the things that I'm saying are flying over y'all's heads. But I hope that you all are getting inspired as well to make your own tracks and experiment on your own, because a lot of it, you know, I'm doing stuff that I just kind of know after just making so much, there's a couple things. There's like things that I just start to do and that I know that will sound good, like that reverse cymbal and reverse low end effect that leads you into the next section. That's just kind of like a technique that I've learned that just kind of, if you want to make a transition better, there's a little secret. Just throw in some noise that leads you into a new section, whether it be a reverse cymbal or a low end sweep or whatever. Okay, with that note, I think I'm going to sign off for today. It was a little bit longer one, but yeah,